Pleasure to have you,
It's
Charles.
awesome.
We're so
It's awesome.
happy that you'll be, speaking as the keynote at our conference. And, you know, I was hoping just as a start, you could help define for people what social justice, your terminology, what it means to you in schools.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the session in January. Yeah, social justice is a term that means a lot of things to a lot of people, and I try to make it as concrete as possible whenever I speak about social justice. I think of it as a way of thinking and a way of practicing that informs how we serve children. So if you're a teacher, if you are a principal, administrator, psychologist, social worker, it's how do you think about your students? How do you think about families? And how is your work informed by Yuri Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory, basically? So we think about what's happening around children more than focusing on what's happening within them only. So we're looking at communities, looking at community violence, looking at school funding, looking at issues of privilege and racism, all of these things that happen or exist beyond children or around children, and how do those things inform what we need to do to promote more equitable outcomes for young people.
I sort of thought to myself, okay, I'm a school psychologist sitting in the audience, and I'm thinking I have an individual ed plan, and I need to come up with a measurable outcome for a kid who's qualified for services for ADD. How would you put that social justice hat on in making that kind of shift?
Yes, I would put it on way before the IEP. So I would put it on through how I'm.
As you walked in the door.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So I will put it on as I'm choosing assessment measures. I'll put on even before that. I put it on when I'm even talking about in these pre-referral team meetings. Is this child's behavior really disabling, or what else could be a viable or logical explanation for what we think is disability? But now that we're at the disability stage, I would think about a goal that really promotes the child's independence, but also is mindful of their own unique background, so their own demographic factors, so language, culture, what's valuable to the families.
Well, even just talking to you briefly, I can hear your passion and your determination to make
I
a difference
appreciate that.
in children's lives.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think all of us really who work in schools or who work with children want the same thing. I think the challenge for all of us is to really be mindful of how we go about doing that, because sometimes, even unintentionally, we leave out people who know kids better than we do. I've always said that I know kids in general, but families are experts in their own children.
Your hope for what people might take away from this session, like two things you might hope that they, besides being inspired, which already I'm inspired, I'm ready to.
Yeah, so I would say there are two things that I always share in all of my sessions, and it's one to encourage people, and the second is to motivate them to challenge systems. So we can never talk about social justice without challenging systemic practices that exist even around us as professionals. I always say that the people in the room oftentimes have a boss. I have a boss, supervisor, or director. You have a boss as a school psychologist or a counselor. But I want you to go back and start asking questions, things like, why do we do that if it's not leading to good outcomes for kids?
Wonderful. We are honored to have you speak with
It's
us.
it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.